I've just woken up from my first sleep and my character has been pretty far progressed. I did get to level 92.5 off stream. So the character is definitely quite tanky as it would be dead and unable to level as I would be dying every single map. I've been pretty much doing all maps and doing all map bosses with no real trouble. Only big issue was the chaos res, but after fixing the issue, the character is actually quite tanky. After swapping over to the correct auras of determination and defiance banner, the character has killed off Awakener deathless, even though it took quite a while, and even though the PoE pop says it's around like 2.5 mil DPS now, it's actually quite concerning because I've seen the lightning strike raider pops and it's only like 1.9 for the attack. So I do think that perhaps other classes might struggle a little bit more with single target or whatnot until they get better gear and more pen. But this build has been an absolute blast to level. It's super fast. There's a lot of people who come by in my chat and ask me, did you get Headhunter already? Because the character looks so big from Berserk. But the fact of the matter is that Berserker just scales super well, and having 40% more attack speed changes things completely in terms of how you move across the map. Right now, I've pretty much just been farming some essences, so let's get straight into my gear. I'm going to go over how you can level up the character yourself and what I think about Scourge League so far. So most of you guys are new to the channel. Every single day I'll pretty much be doing a build diary summarizing pretty much how my character's progression is going or different sorts of builds I'm doing. And also like some little tidbits about the league, like some money making method I am currently invested in, or some other mapping methods. So currently I was pretty much focused on just completing the Atlas. You can see the Atlas is pretty much already done. It is absolutely super fast to finish everything off. So let's get into the gears. So this bad boy I think I made through just spamming essences. I think I spammed the T2 fire essence, and it just happened to get a high cold and high lightning damage roll along with a T1 attack speed. So lastly, I just decided to craft on some crit multi, and the crit multi craft is actually pretty high on the bench. Now the reason I didn't go for crit chance is because we're already fully capped out on crit with brittle, meaning that we can use a 6% crit chance claw, and this makes a huge difference because it allows you to use claws like this, which may otherwise require an extra mod to be viable, which is the crit chance mod. So this weapon, eventually I want to replace it. I want to get this weapon penetrates for one of the Ellie rolls, and maybe also get crit chance or accuracy would be a big help. But right now this claw is more than good enough. And eventually you might want to transition to Fizz and run hatred instead of anger, but that's much further down the line because Fizz claws are super hard to actually craft. Now this helm, the main thing is it has Berserk effect. I think I bought this helm base for around like 40 chaos, and then I spam intelligence essence on it. Now this helm could obviously be a lot better, but I was kind of scared if I would get the same roll back again. So pretty much this helm is an int essence spammed until I hit T1 life roll. And then I decided to craft on some lightning res to fix my resist issue. So this helm is nothing special. Make sure to get the Berserk 30% increased effect, and that's by far the most important thing. If you don't really want to rely on Berserk, you can also try to get Lightning Strike pierces 3 targets. That's another really good one, which should help out the clear a lot. So this amulet I actually spent a large amount of money on. Usually jewelry for this build makes a huge difference in the amount of damage you do. So this jewelry has flat lightning, which is always good. Any type of flat elemental damage. It also has crit multi, which is extremely important for scaling your damage. It has a T1 life roll, a T3 elemental damage with attack skills, and then I decided to craft on increased effect of non-damaging ailments. An increased effect of non-damaging ailments you can pretty much consider as crit chance for your build, because this is what allows you to instantly get your brittle to 15 and letting you get to 100% crit chance against a mob that much faster. And it also has a little bit of a strength roll on it. You could technically craft resist if you needed resist instead of 27% increased effect. But 27% increased effect is actually a pretty high roll to be able to craft on an amulet, and that's why I chose it. Now to anoint, I use Panopticon. I was testing out 2 different anoints. One was Graceful Assault, which is 30% increased onslaught effect. And then it also gives you armor and evasion. And it also gives you onslaught on kill. But since I had onslaught on kill on my boots, which I'll go over later, I decided to use Panopticon. So what Panopticon does is, it might seem a little weird because it's totem damage, but the important part of this is 50% increased effective buffs your ancestor totems grant while active. Since we use 2 ancestral totems, this is actually a huge boost. You can see here that this totem on the Vol Ancestral War Chief actually gives you 32% more melee damage. So if you get 50% of that, that's already 16% more damage. And then the Ancestral Protector totem gives you 20% more attack speed. So you can pretty much consider, best case scenario, gives you like 10% more attack speed and 16% more attack damage, which makes it pretty much unbeatable. Now, this bad part about this is more of a single target anoint. That's most of the times you will not be putting down totems while mapping. But I do think the weakness of the build is not the clear and is definitely the single target. So that's why I chose to do Panopticon. Now, Red Blade Banner, I did not really consider the shield that much in the past, and I was wrong. So this shield is used because this allows us to drop the Warcry cluster here and not have to get Warcries having a minimum of 10 power. So if you read the shield, it says Warcries have infinite power. It also has some life, and it also lastly has Warcry cooldown recovery rate. And this is a big thing because General's Cry is usually a 4-second cooldown. And with this shield, it ends up being 2.67 seconds because of the 50% cooldown recovery rate. Now, what this does is, you see I have Warcry here, and I instantly went to 50 rage. So the reason why that happens is because of this node on the tree. And it grants 10 rage per 5 power if you have less than 25 rage. So it pretty much says it will grant you maximum rage whenever you use it, as long as you have less than 25 rage. So this is actually an absolutely huge upgrade. This allows you to keep up Berserk pretty much the entire time you are playing the game. That person wants to buy the Toxic Rage. Did I actually trade this person? I guess I will. Mid-video trading. So the chest piece, I bought the 6-link base for like 35-40 chaos. And I pretty much just spammed some greed essences. I think T2 greed essence. And this one here, ended up getting chance to suppress spell damage, resist, and physical damage reduction, and decided to craft on life and mana. You can also decide to craft on block, which will bring you to around 50% block chance. And the funny thing is, this chance to suppress spell damage is only a T4 roll. So if you consider it, the Raider Ascendancy is literally one mod on a chest piece, right? A rare chest piece you could potentially be using, which is actually crazy to think about because it makes the Ascendancy honestly pretty trash. But it is what it is. Now, this chest piece, you could also try to get another resist. It could be a better base because I don't think this is the best at all. But this is just like a nice little intermediary chest piece for later on. But I do think that this roll is pretty good. I think I got pretty lucky. Now, the rings are where a lot of damage will usually come from. But here, I'm busy fixing resist. This item is just life, 1 res, or 2 reses because I crafted on something. An LA damage with attacks. Ideally, it should have another flat damage somewhere, but it's kind of hard to get good jewelry right now because all the gear is pretty bad in general. And then this is just an Assassin's Mark ring. I made this myself. You get a Shaper ring, 75 plus. Then you reforge Caster and Harvest, and you'll eventually get this. And I do think that I should get a much better ring, but right now, as I said before, stuff is pretty expensive. Now, I was using an Oscarm before, or Oscram, whatever you call it. And you can see it here. I actually crangled it, and it got... This is actually a pretty good outcome. There's been a lot worse. Claw did not bad, 18% lightning res. So you can see that there's definitely some benefits. It takes a long time to crangle the map actually, but I went from this pair of gloves to this one. This one has T1 life accuracy, which I sorely need. You can see my accuracy is actually finally at 100%, but that's only with Ice Golem up. And it also has some flat damage, which is important, some leech, which doesn't really matter, and resist, and then I crafted on attack speed. Theoretically, if you really wanted to be super safe, you can craft out reduced effective shock and chill, and that allows you to get, what's it called? shock immunity pretty much.
Well
And
met.
here we have a Stygian, and the reason I use a Stygian is because I wanted to use a Abyss Jewel to get even more damage. You can see that Abyss Jewel actually ends up giving you a lot of damage in this build, a lot of flat. And this item here gives me life, chaos res, fire, and cold res. And it just ends up being a very, very decent belt for now, some armor, but this is obviously very early game. Ideally, you would want the energy shield to be T1 wed and it to be influence and have another damage suffix. Now, this boots needs an enchant, but this boots is actually pretty lucky. It's just some life, tri-res, and I crafted on Moose Speed Onslaught, and it's also fugitive boots because it also gives me some chaos res. Now, the nice part about this is it brings my chaos res to like negative 15%. I was playing at negative 80%, I think, or negative 71 with Oscarms on, and it would just ended up being a really bad experience, especially whenever you fought any of the the bad bosses with chaos damage like hunter mobs. Now for flasks, we have simmering. I guess this is the bad bubbling. I should probably roll a better one. So on the topic of flasks are actually a complete shit show now. You have to roll mods on it, and it's actually pretty hard to roll, and you need to get a high level flask to roll it. So you can see that's why I have some 84 flasks, and it is pretty hard to roll because it's like kind of like rolling Tyrannical before, because I think the higher mods are higher weighted. I'm not really 100% sure about that. But these flasks, I just use this one for Jade for some evasion rating. And this one here is my CB immunity one, my granite. And this is diamond flask, and this reduces the shock so that I'm pretty much shock immune whenever this flask is on. And here, this one makes me chill immune whenever I use it. I should probably get an adrenaline flask, but I haven't really tried to roll it too hard. But these are just like some general guidelines. So this makes me chill immune, shock immune, corrupting blood immune, and lastly, higher evasion. When I pop all the flasks, you can see. So do I have Defiance Banner on? The Defiance Banner, you can see I have 72% physical damage reduction with all the flasks pop. It's at 16,499 armor and at 45% evasion. So it ends up being super, super strong. Well, this person is going to buy the Toxic Rain finally.
There's no time.
But let's move on to the passive tree and see what's cooking. Alright, so let's get into the passive tree. The passive tree does have some little changes, mainly because I don't have the money for some cluster jewels. But going out the life route, I already took the max res notes because the league is pretty rippy. Got these 2 jewel slots. I'm using Poacher's Aim to get the Pierce. I am thinking about another way to get it, maybe potentially running Lionized Vision, but it's hard to say. Now this jewel slot, I am using a Glorious Vanity. I think Glorious Vanities are pretty expensive right now though. They're like 2x-ish, 2 to 3x-ish. But the reason why I get the Glorious Vanity is because it gives me Immortal Ambition, which gives me Slayer Overleach. And if you boss without Overleach on a melee build, it is very, very bad. I know a lot of people don't really do this technology, but this also allows you to get increased damage while leeching on the cluster jewels and fully benefit from it no matter what. This actually ends up being very, very high quality of life and almost a necessity while bossing, especially when you do invitations where you have to like get out of the way because the boss is doing a slam attack. So right here, this thing changes this node to lightning damage and pen, which is pretty lucky, and these other ones are just lightning damage, block, ES, and evasion rating, and 3% chance to avoid elemental ailments. There's nothing too special. The right here, down here, before while leveling, I took these fortified nodes, but I found out that 40% increased damage only works when you have 20 fortification. And when you melee hits fortify, it's actually -3 to maximum fortification. And that's why I just chose these ones. It actually ends up giving you 21 fortification in the end. So it actually ends up making you tankier. Call to arms, life node, I'm taking a percent life, reduce recovery rate. If you take the Glorious Vanity, I think you should probably, drop this life mastery and take a percent life node if you want to, because 10% reduced recovery rate affects the rate you leech at. That's probably something I'll do. Here's the secrets of suffering, how the build pretty much works. And this 1 point pretty much gives you 100% crit. Over here, we have a precision, accuracy master, precision, increased mana reservation efficiency, crit mastery with increased effect of non-damaging ailments, and elemental mastery with increased effect of non-damaging ailments, and a reservation mastery with increased mana reservation efficiency of skills, Claw Mastery with percent attack damage leech as life and percent attack damage leech as mana. Later on, when I use a large cluster setup, I could probably drop this node and go for a more offensive option like skill supported by Nightblade, have 40% increased effective elusive. And that's what I'll look towards. So this is a tree I'm currently using. I'll update it in the pod below. I do think that there's probably some more efficient ways of doing this, but at the moment it's pretty good. Maybe these nodes right here are too much. If you feel like you want more HP, you could drop these damage nodes and take more life, and you probably be at 6k. But overall, build is pretty tanky. It does have enough damage, I think, now potentially to do all the content. And let's see the POB. The POB right now is what is 2.6 million DPS with the projectiles. It's like 4.1, but it has to have everything up, and it's not really always going to be the case. But you can see here the damage is already more than sufficient. I'll showcase some videos. Attack speed's kind of low still, but that's how attack speed scaling works, and it should go up to 19 attacks per second once you have some better jewels and clusters. But let's go. I'm going to talk about how to level the build now. So leveling this build was actually not too bad of an experience. It was pretty fast overall. I think I got to maps around in 5 hours or so with all the labs done, something like that. But basically, at the start, you want to level with Splitting Steel. The links I had was Chance to Bleed, Onslaught, and that's pretty much all you need for Splitting Steel at the start. But you can see it takes care of everything. It was a pretty easy to kill Brutus in general. I did have a pretty good Fizz weapon. The biggest thing for leveling though is to make sure you use the Fizz weapon recipe. The Fizz weapon recipe is a Whetstone, a Rustic Sash, and the weapon you want to use. If you use a higher tier rarity Rustic, you'll have a higher tier mod of the Fizz percent. It is actually very important. If you had a Regal, you could Regal it and then craft on percent or flat Fizz, and then you'll get actually a pretty good weapon that will take you all the way through. So this is pretty much just Splitting Steel, Onslaught, and Chance to Bleed doing everything. I do use Ancestral Protector Totem and War Banner. And then later on, after you finish this leveling process, you should be swapping over to Frostblades. And Frostblades is using Onslaught and Ancestral Call. And then I also have a Spectral Helix for single target. So you can see here, Frostblades is pretty strong, but you can see, of course, that rare snake there just can't be killed off because Frostblade's single target is bad. So that's why you kind of use a 2-in-1 ability, or 2 abilities in one. It's Frostblades for clear, Spectral Helix to carry the single target, and it actually ends up being a pretty lethal combo. So this is pretty much what PoE2 will become, or you'll be using 2 damage links and 2 abilities instead of just relying on 1 ability to do it all. And another thing to note is use Leap Slam link to faster attacks as much as possible. It is by far the easiest way to move through the map. It will be having 100% uptime in Quicksilver Flask. So the Frostblades link I had was Ancestral Call and Onslaught, and Spectral Helix is so strong that I was pretty much just only using Chance to Bleed and Maim, I think. You can also do added weapon elemental damage or something like that, or faster attacks, I think, and they should all work, and it actually ends up being an incredible playstyle, and bosses actually just die so fast. And yeah, you can see there I put out Spectral Helix, and then afterwards, I think around level 50ish, I did swap over to Lightning Strike. So you can see here I'm still Spectral Helix through all Act 5. I'm still even Spectral Helix in Act 7. So I swapped pretty late because I had a pretty good weapon, and I'm still even playing Spectral Helix all the way through Act 8. And I'm still Spectral Helix. But finally, I decided to swap to Lightning Strike, and maybe it was a little too early, but not really. But finally, Lightning Strike around, I think, mid-50s or high 50s after I got the second Ascendancy. And this is just because I had a pretty good two-handed weapon the whole time, so it was a pretty easy to level with overall. And yeah, the links you want on the Vol Lightning Strike. You need a Vol Lightning Strike, you need a high LA DPS Claw, and I'm running Multi-Strike, Weapon Elemental Damage, and Trinity for the links. A lot of people ask how you proc Trinity. All you have to do is you run Anger, and then the lightning strike converts the fierce to lightning, so you have anger and lightning alternating as the highest damage element. So that allows you to get full trinity. So you can see here, a single target is only pretty much top tier when you have Vault Lightning Strike up, and it just ends up being not too bad of a lovely experience overall. But make sure before you swap to get Vault Lightning Strike and also to get weapon elemental damage with attacks. And a lot of people also ask me, what ascendancies do you take? And I just want to clear that up real fast. Ascendancies you want to be taking is Warbringer first, and then Aspect of Carnage, and then the Bliss charges towards the end. I do have Uber Lab done already. And before you take Warbringer, make sure you have a Warcry cluster with this, and have Warcries have a minimum of 10 power. So every time you Warcry, you'll generate 20 rage. And once you get a Red Blade banner, you'll be able to generate your full rage bar every single time you Warcry. So hopefully that answers all the little questions. The leveling experience could have been a lot better if I actually was able to try out the tree, but compared to before, the leveling experience is actually better because of the prevalence of these masteries, and it does make a big difference in how the game feels while leveling. Now lastly, before I showcase some like clips from mapping and boss kills, I just want to talk about the Scourge League mechanics, as that's actually what the name of the league is, Scourge. So my Blood Crucible is pretty filled out. I'm pretty much just choosing random stuff that seems good. And what it seems like, Scourge is kind of weird. It seems like something that will be super, super good end game because you can Scourge maps and also have Deli rewards be progressed and also get Nemesis currency from the Deli monsters and Scourge monsters. So it should be a really good end game thing. However, early game, I think Scourge is pretty good. You could definitely put it on a random white item and get an insane mod that has more like flat damage than your actual leveling unique. However, to the mid game, while you're leveling, finishing off the leveling to like early to mid maps, I would probably avoid Scourge. Now, a lot of people might say, why would you not do Scourge? And the main reason is because it slows down your map clear a lot. It pretty much doubles, or like not doubles, but it drastically lengthens your map clear. So it slows down your Atlas progression. It slows down a lot of things, and it also doesn't necessarily make your items better all the time. And you're not really going to be scourging maps right away. So probably hold off until you have a little bit more Atlas completion, just so you can finish your Atlas and start farming the more profitable stuff to get higher eye level bases and stuff like that. But that's just my 2 cents. I do think a lot of the implicits look pretty bad in general. Like the downside is so negative that a lot of items just end up being bricked. I actually did get it, the Wrestle's Defiance, and using the Tainted Fusing, I have this thing, and it never deals crits, so I was actually maybe going to use it. However, it's Krangled, right? It's screwed. And a lot of the items that actually drop Scourge inside of the Scourge area is absolutely awful. I don't know why they're so bad, but they definitely are not using smart loot. So eventually the filter, I'm pretty much probably just going to turn off all of the rare Scourge items that drop from the, what's it called, the Scourge zone. That's just my quick TLDR, is that Scourge is probably amazing late game, kind of good at early game if you just put a white item in to get some quick upgrades. Don't really do it at the end of leveling through the campaign, and definitely don't do it in early maps because you're not really going to get anything really game changing. That would be more beneficial than completing your Atlas. But now I'm going to play some bossing footage, and yeah.
I get lost inside my thoughts, and when I start to think, oh, the tunnel closest starts to end up on the brink. I tried so hard, but all these scars, they cut so deep, I bleed. I fell so fast from heaven, it's like someone clipped my wings. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe, and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I don't wanna say goodbye. this gravity, it keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I don't wanna say goodbye.
Overall, this build has been a great success and fun. It actually performs incredibly well without much gear. It's pretty much carried by the Berserker Ascendancy, Bliss charges, and what's it called? And the more damage. So let's see, PoE Ninja, did we win out in the Lightning Strike? Because in the end, how high level you are is pretty big because it means how much you die. And this guy's finally a higher level. But you can see Berserkers won out in the end. We beat out the Raiders, even though there's a billion Raiders. But we'll see. You can see Berserkers have more life. We can still get 100% spell suppression. But it is what it is. Lionized Vigil will probably be the next chest we go for. And then it should be a relatively cheap upgrade. So if you like the content, be sure to like and subscribe and follow along the build diaries. It should be really fun. I will be transitioning to self-chill once the price of fulcrums go down a little bit. I did not know that fulcrum was like a 15x unique or something on the first few days. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do. I think, let's see the currency check.
I cannot do this yet.
I think I have 6x now. So maybe we're almost at the Mage Blood belt. But good luck and see you next time. Bye.